Right. Hey everyone, I'm Klloo. So, what would answers be if they didn't lead us to more questions, right? And all we can do is dig and see what exactly we can figure out. Starting off with our Gem Pack 3. So, Gem Packs are crafted around a main booster set with chase cards in special treatment related to the theme of that set. Now, potentially, that could have been thrown out the window, right? And Gem Packs just feature interesting cards, but I'm going to have to say LSS are probably holding true to this description when they announce Gem Packs, meaning that our Gem Pack 3 is definitely not Savage Lands. It has Helm of the Arcanine and our Halo of Luminar's Light, even if we say one of them is just a gimme, right? Just something to throw in there because of the inaccessibility, potentially, of the Living Legend Armory decks. Well, it still means that, in bulk, the Gem Pack is related to the set it's going to be a part of, which will, of course, be our final set of the year. So, I think the clear indication here is that most likely Monarch has been pushed up and will feature as the final set of the year rather than in early 2026. Now, in terms of heroes, right? Levia, Bolton, they could both use a little bit of love, right? Vincent, a lot, and then Prism is doing fine. So I wouldn't expect a whole bunch of new heroes in the set either, right? Again, could be a nice way to reintroduce Viz, but in general, just a Monastery versus Solana and a whole bunch of supporting cards. So, yeah, bit unfortunate, right? Because even I started to become hopeful that it would be Savage Lands. Still, Monarch 3. It's not going to be, obviously, a super hype set, which also we've been given an indication towards. So, yeah, I had to put money on it. Definitely not Savage Lands. Definitely going to have something to do with Runeblade. And therefore, Monarch 3. Now, the other new thing. We have our understanding of our mysterious symbol. It is just to tap, right? So, tap is a concept TCG fans will definitely be familiar with. And it opens possibilities within Flesh and Blood's game design. Now, in terms of untapping, this occurs only during your end phase. So that is quite the distinction, and again, from a design perspective, does open up different possibilities. Currently, tapping relates to permanence within the arena, which definitely makes sense. You have to control it in order to tap it. So we have Gravy Bones as a hero, we have a weapon, mine's Red Spine Manta, we have our Gold Kiss Rum sort of hinting towards untap, along with the fact that the untap symbol does feature in the symbol legend of the Smash Palace booklet, meaning that we may see cards with untap and therefore be able to untap different permanents. We have our allies by way of our Necromancer, right, all having tap as one of their resource costs, and then Sky Simmer and Hoist Them Up both targeting permanents that exist within play. So while it may act in the place of once per turn, it operates differently to once per turn, which is a big distinction to make, because when it comes to, say, Gravy versus Oslo, right? Gravy can be used on either turn, but he only resets during your end phase, whereas Oslo can be used once on either turn. What this means is for Gravy, you can go your turn, use it on your opponent's turn, but you can't use it on your opponent's turn and then use it on your turn. Whereas Oslo can be used back to back. Your turn, your opponent's turn, your turn, your opponent's turn, and continuous as long as you meet the other cost requirements. So what this means is that the tap mechanic creates this dynamicism through allowing you to either use it consistently or in bursts, right? So take Charm, our friendly first mate. You can attack with him the turn you play him. You can then instant on your opponent's turn, but this would lock you out of attacking on your following turn. So you can choose to either use it consistently, attacking each turn, instancing each turn, or to have that short burst where you go back and forth between the effects, but then lock you out of a following turn. So again, from that design perspective, it is going to be a little bit interesting to see what exactly LSS does do with it. We do have some other sort of situations, though, where it can get a little bit confusing. So, in the case of Red Spine Manta and our Red Liner, right? They're both very, very similar. So, Red Spine Manta lets you put an arrow from your hand face up in your arsenal, but at the cost of tapping, whereas Red Liner allows you to do the same, only if you don't have a card in your arsenal, and with that once per turn requirement. So, in conjunction with a card like Tri-Shot, right? So Tri-Shot essentially increases the number of times you can activate your bow. It turns that once per turn into essentially a thrice per turn. So since Red Spine Manta doesn't actually have that once per turn condition, its cap comes from being able to tap it, meaning you could Tri-Shot it, but Tri-Shot would not do anything functionally because you wouldn't be able to meet the untap requirement in order to reactivate Red Spine Manta. In that same scenario, there's nothing stopping you from reactivating Red Spine Manta in the same turn as long as you do meet that untap requirement. So they are, again, functionally different. Once per turn does not essentially equate to our new tap mechanic. So in terms of, say, Gravy Bones, right? Again, if we do get an untapped mechanic, Gravy Bones essentially becomes a hero in the facet of Kano, right? Kano can instant every single turn and over again as long as you meet the requirement of paying your resources. So as long as we had access to an untapped mechanic, Gravy Bones could instant over and over again, destroying a gold you control to draw and then discard on either your turn or your opponent's turn. Meaning that, again, we maintain that dynamicism of once per turn heroes, once per turn instant heroes, once per turn actions, not once per turn actions, our just general resource costs. So all in all, what I'm trying to say is tap is more functionally similar to a resource requirement rather than, again, replacing once per turn. Now, in terms of, say, an errata, again, this could functionally make sense for a couple cards. Take Dorinthia Ironsong, her once per turn effect could be converted to something like when your weapon attack hits, untap it, allowing you to retap it to attack, but then the weapon itself would need a conversion of, again, its once per turn to attack mechanic. However, I do believe that there are more cards overall where this just doesn't work. So take Twinning Blade, for instance, you may attack an additional time with target sword this turn. So in the case of taking two different swords, you could essentially target a sword that hasn't been tapped, meaning that, again, if it was errated to convert to just untapping a weapon, that doesn't quite work. It fundamentally changes how these cards operate. Again, Tri-Shot being you can untap a bow 2 more times. How does that work? How do you accrue those charges and display that you can still use this bow over and over again by, again, tapping and untapping? So I do believe that, again, they are functionally different, and therefore this is a new mechanic, not a replace mechanic in order to, again, for clarity's sake, streamline certain mechanics or make displaying information to your opponent in terms of board states a bit more accurate. Now, Mastery Pack Guardian, right? So we're told it's a 130 card set with 13 cards per pack. Then, for Smash Palace, we get the indication that the way Crack Shuffle play will work is you remove the last 3 cards of each pack to shuffle, meaning that you get your 10 cards per pack and 3 something else, right? Maybe basics or tokens. So what exactly would those 3 cards amount to? We get maybe 9 auxiliary cards per deck, so 1 hero, 1 weapon, and 5 equipment, right? From a Crack Shuffle play perspective, having a full kit, weapon, and equipment, in the case of Guardian, a shield, would definitely make a lot of sense. But it does become a little bit interesting in how exactly the numbers would line up. So for instance, Velda being a hero in the Mastery Pack rather than in Smash Palace, where Smash Palace, you will get copies of your heroes because, again, the Mastery Pack is solely for Velda v Velda, whereas Smash Palace is UPF for 7 different heroes. So Velda herself will probably be somewhat common, right? At the very least, it has to be 1 of every 9 cards so that you find Velda in order to, again, just grab 3 packs and Crack Shuffle play. Now, in terms of weapons, we do have a plethora of Guardian weapons currently, some requiring shields, some not requiring shields, some not really meshing with Velda as well as they could. So generally speaking, we might see, again, new weapons, new equipment, but overall, the numbers do still just confuse me a little bit, right? So, for instance, if equipment was included, the variance on equipment could make it difficult to create a well-crafted limited experience. If you had to find 4 separate pieces within, again, those 9 cards per your 30-card deck, finding a head, chest, legs, and arms could definitely become a difficulty. So, for instance, if they were double-sided, right, every headpiece you find is also a chest, every arm's a leg, right, that would halve how many cards you have to find. But then it would also mean that the amount of cards that we're pulling out of each pack would not quite add up to what would technically be necessary. It could create a lot of functional choice, which, again, would help with the limited experience, but it could also hint that something else exists within those back 3 cards, and that could potentially be, say, the expansion slot, which I don't know if I would fundamentally like, right? The expansion slot attached to a supplemental product like our Mastery Pack Guardian. Basically, creating a need for the product outside of just its support of Guardian and the play experience. So, yeah, food for thought in what is lurking within those 3 back cards. Lastly, treasure packs, but more particularly, the Lost Treasure. So, this has been racking my brain ever since we got the video, revealing some of the cards, I should say, in the product. So, there are 43 different Lost Treasures, and of that, there are 17 unique Lost Treasures. Everywhere it's been stated, it is 43, and then 17 unique, meaning it's not an and, it's not 43 plus 17 unique treasures. The 17 unique are part of the 43 cards. Now, currently revealed, we have our 3 signed Cold Foil Fables from the first 3 sets, our signed Prism Marvel, our Library Proof, 2 Bravo Marvel Proofs, 11 signed Cold Foil Legendaries again from the first 3 sets, a signed EA Twinning Blade, and then 32 Marvel Heroes made up of 4 of each language of the original 8 heroes. What this means is in total, that is 51 cards, right? Treasure packs appear at a rate in 1 in 1,000, with each treasure pack being in each display, meaning that this would equate to 51,000 booster displays, which definitely does not equate to the expected print size of high seas. So for instance, if we say the print run is somewhere between 250,000 to 300,000 booster displays, that means that we need a total of 250 to 300 cards to make up the pool of lost treasures. So 17 unique means that on average, every other card, right, so the 26 other cards would require 8 to 9 different copies on average in order to fill up that card pool. So that begs the question, what else exists within the lost treasure? 43 different cards, 17 unique, 26 cards with multiple copies. 24 cards have currently been shown, right? We could say it's 50 if we count each language of the Marvel heroes as an individual card. However, at 50, that's too many to equate to that 43 different cards. So, the 17 unique to me are the Signed Heart, Shard Eye, the Prism Marvel, the Twinning Blade EA, and the 11 Legendaries, plus then the Library Proof. All these cards were shown functionally unique as per the video released by James White. So, that leaves us with our 26 multiples being our 2 Bravo Marvel Proofs and our 8 different Marvel heroes, each with 4 copies apiece, leaving 17 unknown cards at the current time, all requiring at least 10 copies each. So again, that 17 could be split up in any different way. Could be something with 2 copies, something with 50 copies. But altogether, that means that we've only seen slightly more than half of what will exist in the Lost Treasure slot, potentially meaning that we could get something like, say, our Enigma New Moon as just a pack filler, right? Which will still be fairly rare, mind you, right? At most. Again, 300 copies, we've seen 50-ish cards, right? So even if it was just filled with 250 copies of one card, that is still functionally very unique, right? The Marvel amulets in the Marvel slot are 100 apiece, 900 in total, so they can't equate to the Lost Treasures, but generally speaking, whatever cards are also included in the Lost Treasure slot will still be rare. It's just whether or not they sort of meet up to the hype of the cards that have currently been revealed. So definitely food for thought, definitely something to scratch your head around and speculate, and something that will definitely hold my interest until it is finally revealed. But there we go, right? Thoughts, feelings, right? Would you like expansion cards in the Mastery products? I feel like it's unnecessary. I feel like I like the idea of it being a product you can miss, right? And you don't even have to follow too loosely if you're not interested in Guardian in terms of the actual cards as well. Do you like tapping as a mechanic? Do you want to see how LSS does portray it differently to some other games? And then, of course, Lost Treasures. What other cards are you expecting to lurk underneath the water? Hope you enjoyed. See ya.